What if the truth is being buried, not by strangers, but the very people who should be seeking the truth and justice? Hey guys, Amy Rigetti here, obviously the host of South Asian Wedding Guru podcast, but today I am again feeling compelled to talk about Sudiksha. We are well into the third week, going into the fourth week of this investigation that has seemed to simmer down quite a bit as her parents have decided that they are no longer thinking that foul play was involved. My question is this something that they did under stress, under duress, through poor community advice? I don't know. But by the end of this episode, I'm going to talk about if I smell a rat. So, for those of you new and joining us in on this news, as I can't believe that there would be anybody in the world, let alone this community, that wouldn't know about the situation at hand, I'm quickly going to recap it because I have talked to people in this community that are like, I haven't really been following. These things happen all the time. She was probably just like very laxy-daisy about it, as if it's just another person, doesn't really matter. And that to me deserves a louder voice, because we need to make it known that none of this is okay. None of this is acceptable. Just another girl, just another person is not okay. And that we will not tolerate it. That 4 people missing at that resort initially, and now another missing at that, like, where do we stand in all this? Why are we still, especially the South Asian community, who are big supporters of destination weddings that keep these resorts going? How can you sit here and not question the strategy, the theory, the reasons behind why we're not seeking justice for Sudiksha? This should be at the forefront of everybody's mind. If you are South Asian and you are in the social media community and you have a presence and you have a voice, you should be speaking up. You should not be worried about what is it that people are going to think? What is it that people say? Who is it that just isn't going to support this? What views am I going to lose? What subscribers am I going to lose? Because none of that matters if we just keep losing people, regardless of race. But since this is specifically South Asian, we have a voice in this. You have a voice in this. And I think we should all speak up. Here's my take on the whole process. When this all started and these girls decided to take this trip to the DR, I do believe that they all had conversations with their family. They all had conversations with their parents. Maybe some of them were more like, no, we don't want you going. And some of them were like, okay, go, honey, have a good time. They gave the money. Maybe even some of them were like, well, we saved the money. We should be able to go. It's our money. We're going to go anyway. And now we've got this whole American, I'm 18, can do whatever I want at play. And I know this better than anybody. I played the card too. But now my question arises to, where's that story? Where are those answers? Why are we protecting those girls? Everybody was so quick to jump on board and attack Joshua. One interviews of Joshua, follow Joshua around. Where are the stories of the other girls? Why aren't we hearing those stories? Why aren't we hearing those interviews? Why aren't we hearing the interviews that are happening at that bar? So Sudiksha boards that flight and they wind up in the DR and they're partying and they're having a good time. They're coming to the end of the trip. They have just a couple days left and they go out and they hang out at this bar. This bar is also a place that I believe you can hang in, even if you're not staying at the hotel, that anybody is welcome in here. If you go online and you search things that are happening in the DR with actual DR residents, they will tell you that that particular bar is known for having some issues with roofing and substances and having just stuff, even if this wasn't a Joshua thing. I don't know if I'm so quick to go there, but this is the situation where we say, okay, now we have footage. Actual footage means facts. And so we have all these people hanging out at the bar. We have footage that shows poor Sudiksha and, Josh obviously vomiting profusely, not feeling well. Sudiksha looks a little bit more vibrant in this, as far as she's hugging her girlfriend and she's having a good time. And, it's not raining on her parade. Joshua, however, really looks like he's got the brunt of this, right? So you see these at the bar. They're there with their friends. You clearly see what Joshua is wearing. You clearly see what his buddy is wearing. And then, of course, you see the girls. Okay, they decide to leave the bar. We have 6 girls who decide to go together. They're also at the bar together. 2 of our 6 girls stay back while 4 of them head towards the lobby area. You see 2 of the 4 kind of mingling around like they're a little embarrassed of what's going on, and girls get it together kind of attitude as they're walking around. But then you see Sudiksha along with her other girlfriend as she vomits and then sits down on the couch. You see her with her black purse. You know that's her. The media has confused these 2 girls with one another. The one girl that was with Sudiksha at this time was also hooking up with the other friend in the floral shirt and the dark shorts. Okay. So that floral shirt footage that you're seeing in dark shorts is not Sudiksha. That is not Sudiksha and Joshua. That is the other friend that is hanging out with the other girl in this party of 6. So now we have 6 girls. 2 stayed back at the bar. 4 came out into the lobby. You see 2 of them head outside as Sudiksha and the other one fall back as she's just trying to gain her ground, right? So then you see footage of all 6 of these people, meaning Joshua, his buddy, along with Sudiksha, her girlfriend, and the 2 girls. In the order which you see them leave, the other friend is with Joshua's buddy in the front with the floral shirt and the navy shorts, and they're far ahead of these pretty much at some point. And then you see Joshua and Sudiksha there where she's got her arm there, but he keeps like grabbing her and pulling her in because obviously he's feeling some things. He's got some vibes going on. And so he pulls her in, and then you see the 2 other girls. Okay, so now we have 4 of the 6-pack because 2 are still at the bar, 2 are lingering back, and the other 2 have paired up with 2 gents. But the other 2 hanging in the back are like on their devices, they're chum-chum, talking to each other. But what are they saying? What are they thinking? Are they thinking this is all wrong? Are they getting bad vibes? Why is it that after all 6 of them go down, 2 boys and 4 girls, why do we see 2 girls come back? And is it those 2 girls that come back because they're like, we're just not feeling it? They come back. Do they have Sudiksha's phone? Or is it the girl that hung back with Sudiksha and the other 2 boys has her phone? I want to know who took her phone, why they took her phone. Was this a Sudiksha ask? These are questions that if you do not want people to keep talking, speculating, assuming, you need to give us answers. So here we have the media telling us that eventually Sudiksha and Josh were by themselves on this beach. What happened to the other friend that was holding hands with the boy in the floral shirt? Where did they fall off? At what point? Because if we start closing the gaps on hours, we know that the sun rose at about 6:30, 6:40. And so it really leaves you like just an hour after reportedly they left to where the sun was rising. So there's not a lot of time that something took place in this particular situation. There are just not enough answers. And then we come back to it. And if you look at the laws in the DR, they're saying unless the DR finds evidence and pretty much says, okay, we're arresting you within 48 hours, they cannot trail him. They cannot keep him unless they look at him as a witness within this case. So the DR is being very careful not to say he's a suspect, because the minute that they do, the clock has begun and they've got 48 hours to arrest this young man or let him go. So instead they're like, he's a valuable witness, because they can hold him indefinitely. They cannot survey him and keep the police tailing him, but they can keep him in the DR without giving him his passport until they have cleared him as a witness, which seems like they were doing as they were dragging their feet. And this investigation was well underway, getting so much footage until Sudiksha's parents step into the limelight and they ask for this death certificate. Why would you ask for a death certificate? Well, I'm going to tell you why, because I have been living not only as an insider in the Indian community, but I'm also living as an insider in the Telugu community. India is full of different regions, full of different states, full of different languages. And believe it or not, this is the one culture, the one group of people which, if you've ever listened to Russell Peters, will tell you that it's a group racist among themselves for color and class and all these things. So why are we not diving more into this? I have been a firsthand experiencer in this, and I cannot believe that nobody else, no other girls are speaking out. But the only thing that I can gain out of that is they don't want to hurt their families. They don't want to speak against their communities. I know how that feels as someone who is Caucasian American, and I speak against how I feel people in my race, gender, behave, and stereotyping and maybe putting them in a class. But if we don't speak, who will? And this is the fact that I feel like if in any way I can gain traction and be able to speak to Sudiksha's parents, if they speak to me and they tell me from the bottom of their hearts that this was not something that anybody else put in their mind, that they genuinely, wholeheartedly believe that Joshua did nothing, that their daughter was not in any way abducted off that beach, I will never whisper her name from my lips again, so long as I'm convinced that that's exactly what they feel took place. But looking at Sudiksha's mom in that video is absolutely heartbreaking. And for any woman in the South Asian community to look at that mom and not psychoanalyze what it is she's thinking and feeling, you might be what's wrong with the community if you're not willing to call it what it is. Speak out. Be her voice too. Because when I saw Sri Devi sit there and put her hands across her face and turn away, that was every single sign that I needed to say she is in a community where she looks so soft and so gentle and so sheltered that she is going along with a community in which doesn't want to be shamed, doesn't want to be torn down, doesn't want to be exposed, and does not want their daughter's memory to be desecrated upon the way it is. But we are already there. We are already seeing the media doing this. And by you silencing yourselves, you're silencing her, and you need to be her advocate where she cannot be that advocate. I get it that you're disappointed. I get it that you probably never in a million years thought that your daughter would have done any of these things, because our daughters aim to please us. She was aiming to please you. She was doing everything right. I don't understand why you wouldn't let these resources keep going. If you want to carry on, move on, do what you need to do. A piece of paper is not going to do that for you or help you do that. It's not. If she's not coming back, a death certificate isn't going to change things except for the intensity on the ground, looking for her and looking for answers. I plead with you to please think about the decision that you've made in asking for that death certificate. The Dominican themselves, you just gave them with open arms everything that they wanted. That Rue Hotel, they don't want to be under scrutiny that they've got possibly dangers and predators on their beach that could be taking young, vulnerable people and doing whatever they want. They also don't want it on their beach that their beaches are unsafe, and that Joshua, if in fact did something out of anger, out of haste, out of feeling like he was turned down, is a potential that could happen to any girl out there, because they have no surveillance, no security on their beaches, and anybody can go onto the beaches and simply be swept away by a wave. No body, no burial. Why worry? After all, if the parents think she's gone, eventually everybody else will too. So I ask you deeply to reconsider what it is that you've stated. If it is not something you truly believe, rather than you were just poorly advised in a time of duress, please reconsider rescinding that. Push this investigation on. Let them find the facts. And in any way, shape, or form, as parents, you should be working to bring Sudiksha home. This brings me to the fact of all the information that's going out there and how I refuse to let this die down without answers. There's investigators out there specifically for the Natalie Holloway case who's willing to raise his own money and start his own investigation out there. What do we have to lose by letting him do that? Maybe some peace of mind? What if he finds something? What if he were to find a trafficking ring where so many other girls' lives were saved? And then Sudiksha wouldn't have gone through all this in shame. What if they found her in any way, shape, or form? What if they found her? How could we look at her and say, less than 2 weeks in, We just wanted to move on. That's what this says. So for my viewers out there, this is where I say, why is this move on the parents' behalf super suspicious and deserves more attention? I have had the privilege and unique experience of raising my children, not only under the Indian culture, but within the Telugu community. I married the very same man who said that Telugu communities are tight, that they share everything, that there's no privacy among anyone, and no matter what happens in your home will be shared with others. And that wasn't something that he wanted for his family. So just outside of that Ashburn community, we reside, cohabitating with them, knowing what's going on the inside, and often enough being told from those inside some of the horrible stories that are happening within. And I always thought to myself, perhaps I should not get involved, that my business has been uniquely evolving around the South Asian community, not necessarily one specific region, but definitely the community, as we niche in South Asian weddings. That's my tribe. But what I will not stand for is the bullying that I do see within my husband's own community, in which makes people feel that they don't have a voice. We experienced this within our immediate family when living in India, when you have a child that cannot do for themselves, how ridiculed that is, and what people say, and the hushed sounds and the whispers, the speculation that comes behind that. It's hard enough in the community to raise a child that's perfect, let alone imperfect. I also have been part of an amazing set of in-laws who see that very same way. That rather than be humiliated, disobeyed, they would rather walk away. And as a parent myself, I've been in that position where I have to decide, are my morals and values more important than that of my child's? And I ask you guys to think about this very same community that everybody wants to give reasons as to why it is these parents have shut this down. Well, I can tell you what my speculation is. Again, this is merely my opinion, since I do have a rare opportunity that most do not have of being on the inside. This is a community, this is a region in which, for example, most Telugu people, if you go to any office in America where you have, let's just say, engineers, lots of Indian engineers, right? But if you go into these offices, you will see that even though there are many, many, many Indians, Telugu people especially will go out to lunch with other Telugus. You don't see a whole lot of intermixing, even with other Indians. You don't see Telugus inviting North Indians and Gujaratis and Punjabi people. You don't see them doing that. They usually speaking their own language, go out to their own lunch, hang with their own people, even outside of work. I've never met a more tighter community. And on that note, I can tell you that this very same community approached me at one point when I was going through my own issue to tell me about an issue that they were having of a gentleman who owns a big company out here, in which he himself has a daughter and was befriending her friends and doing things that he should not have been doing. And the solution was not to get justice for any of these girls. The solution was merely to add a third party, Telugu as well, who holds another position of power in the community. And let's talk about it. Handle it on our own, because that's what the community does. And there were some funds negotiated to quiet this family down. And the community, instead of trying to take care of the problem, they decided to just push the problem away, ask this person to relocate, never come back, which they did not fully do. That to me sounds like, instead of fixing a problem, you're harboring a criminal. That makes you part of the problem. Authorities also, there's money in Loudoun County. A lot of money in Loudoun County. And that money comes from the South Asian community. So I encourage investigators to look at the bigger picture, because we're not just dealing with Sudiksha missing. We're dealing with a complete wanting to shut this case down because it could make a community look bad. This isn't just about Sudiksha, it's about the other 5 girls who were with her as well. We don't have 2 parents, we have 12 parents, plus a community who could look bad, that their kids could look bad. That these parents, not so much the girls, but feel that this could ruin their daughter's chances of maybe finding a match. But you know what? Not many people are willing to speak or talk about that because this is where America's problems lie. We're so sensitive. We're worried about stomping on another person's culture instead of just looking at us all as equals. Well, for me, I feel Sudiksha should have the same amount of justice given to her as anybody else. I don't think our parents should be able to make that call. Given we go to college, they can't see our grades without our permission. We're 18, nobody can talk to us without their permission. Doctors, lawyers. So yes, Sudiksha's parents have asked for this courtesy. And I don't think we should be stomping around their house or carrying on over there either. But as far as Sudiksha goes, we need to keep this alive. We need to keep this momentum going. And we need to not let it be shut down. We need all avenues investigated. If you are out there watching YouTube and American news, you need to jump onto the Indian news. You need to broaden your opinions and your views. I was actually just recently watching NewsX with Mr. Vineet Malhotra, and it was interesting to see that he had brought on people in which these people have no bias, no relation to, they're not out here. They're actually in India, and he got a pulse for what it was that people are thinking there. For me, I have to say that I'm more in line with Professor Madhav Nalapat's perspective on this. So if you get the chance, this was the episode that we were seeing where they had represented three different people's perspectives, again, not related to that particular community, on what they thought took place. They also were baffled by why the parents, these are other Indian parents, they're also baffled at why these parents would do that and for what reason. It just doesn't make sense why they would do that. But this professor specifically believes that there were advances made. There was a turn down that happened. Sudiksha fought ferociously for her life and unfortunately was in the wrong place at the wrong time in the wrong company. And now she's not here anymore. Now, again, there's a former ambassador who she spoke about. Let me make sure I have her name right. Her name is Baswati Mukherjee. She also talked about what her take on what it was. And she's more in line with, she really thinks this could be a trafficking, kidnapping, drug-related situation. We shouldn't rule that out either. I'll be the first one to apologize if that be the case, because I would be more than over the moon if that were the case and somehow biometrics found her and brought her home because she was being used for a mule or something. And then you have a journalist who's more in tune to the youth and the population and what they are doing on all fronts all over the world, and who just puts it out there that our kids are rebellious. I have to agree with that. I got some kids of my own, and I think that it's very important to note that this Gautam Mukherjee mentions that they're rebellious and they're going to do what they want to do. And then we have this Baswati who also says, our kids don't listen to us, especially us, our parents, that you shouldn't even try to parent adult children anymore because they're not going to listen. They're going to do their own thing. And it's so true. Some things we feel like as kids, we got to learn on our own, and we don't need our parents to continuously be harping on us. Why is it that they seem like they have the right idea? They're not even in America. And yet we have two Indian parents who are in America, have all these resources at their disposal, and they just want to shut it down. I could understand if this was something relating to maybe the local authorities said, if you ask for a death certificate, then all the investigative stuff can become our property and we can take this investigation over privately. Okay, that to me makes sense. But it doesn't seem like that's what we're doing. There's a sense of protecting a family's name than protecting a single person's justice. And I see that a lot in the Telugu community. I see a lot of people who, there's still a lot of arranged marriages in the Telugu community that go on. And we're talking about a community that would rather disown and shun their child than to see them even get married and come back home. This stuff is still real. It's still alive. It's still out there. And this is the thought process that goes along with it. And unfortunately, the message of a death certificate is being heard loud and clear for every single South Asian out there. And if I hear this so clearly, I know they're listening. I want to bring attention to the fact that we have a community in Loudoun County in which is so deep that they are chirping in this family's ear, potentially giving them very bad advice. That look what this is doing. People are talking, news is getting out. Look what everybody's going to think about us. Don't just think about yourself. Think about the other girls and their parents and this whole community being exposed, people thinking we have bad girls. When for centuries, these girls have had to undergo the fact that their parents are more worried about their chastity than their character, their success in college, the fact that they're a sibling, and the fact that they're people and individuals who should be treated that way, regardless of whether you felt Sudiksha's bikini was to your liking or not, or whether you felt that she should be in the Dominican drinking. She was of drinking age. She wasn't doing something she wasn't allowed to do as per the laws. But because of the laws of a community that have been silently scribed somewhere, we're not going to seek justice for her. That is sad. And I'm going to ask you again to please reconsider rescinding. You're asking for a death certificate. You'll get it in 7 years anyway if she doesn't come back. Why are you so pressed to do that now? I honestly, wholeheartedly do not believe Sri Devi wanted that. That she wants this. That she doesn't want people to keep looking and find an answer, a trace, something to absolutely confirm a thought. It's a thought. There's no evidence. This is simply a thought. In my previous episode about Sudiksha, I have read every single comment, responded to every single comment in those comments. And I can't understand why it is that nobody else is raising these questions as to who benefits from shutting this all down, trying to stop the noise, make it all go away. Who benefits? I really don't understand who convinces a family to back down and not fight for justice. Typical American fashion would be ribbons, vigils. But Indian fashion is to just stop talking about it. And I know this personally because my husband lost a sister. And instead of working through it and talking about it, the silence was almost deafening. And my kids will never know who she really was. Because instead of talking about it and honoring her, it's just easier not to talk about her. So I'm going to ask all of you out there viewing to share this, to keep Sudiksha's efforts alive. Until we know for certainty that she's not, none of us should give up on her. Every day I think about her. I've had moms of past brides call me. I've had brides reach out to me. I've had other moms, Indian moms in the community who know this family personally, tell us that they're so distraught by it because they also can't understand, but they also can't speak up about it. Here we are in 2025, and we still feel we can't be bold and speak up. Well, I'm not going to be silenced. So I hope that everybody will jump on board. Leave your comments for me. I'm sure there's some of you that aren't going to agree with me or my feelings or this podcast, but tell me, do you believe that I could be onto something? Because at the end of that particular news briefing with Mr. Vineet Malhotra, he had asked, do you smell a rat in all this? I do. And I'm going to go as far enough to say that I think their parents shutting things down is because of the Telugu community. Because they don't want any more of this. They just want it to go away. And that is not the answer to this. So the big group out there, TANA, Telugu Association of North America, I ask you to be the bigger group and put in your efforts. Show us that Sudiksha matters. Show us that the community, specifically the Telugu community, is not trying to shut this down and keep it quiet simply to save anyone's name or dignity because they feel embarrassed or shamed or let down by one child's behavior. She was doing nothing wrong. And I'm asking for TANA to stand up for Sudiksha. Fight for her. Talk to the parents. Persuade them to seek justice for her. Because them seeking justice for her is seeking justice for every one of your kids. And that is the right thing to do. I'm going to call this like it is. I believe this is a community protecting itself instead of finding justice for Sudiksha. There's a cost for complicity, silence, and internal politics within the Indian and Telugu community. And this is where you stand strong. You show your youth that they matter and they're not a disappointment. It is for that very reason that this case should not be ignored and that we should not stop the fight. We should not stop the investigation. We should search for Sudiksha.